On Amazon, you stand a fighting chance because customers that buy on Amazon still care about the brand that they buy. And that's kind of where we have an edge because we have these licensing agreements, so we can have this brand power that supports us. Because if we were working based off of pricing alone, we would stand zero chances. Our landed cost at a lot of the times is going to be almost identical to what these Chinese brands are selling the product for. They manipulate those. And they're not scared of it because all they care about is the product that sells. They just open another seller account from China. They start another seller. They take over those listings. They put some sponsored campaigns. And they're back into like one selling on Amazon.
I'm your host, Michael Arking, and I have the pleasure of being joined by Ariel Bounik here today. Ariel is the Director of Ecommerce and Digital Strategy at Naftali Inc., where he built the travel goods digital business for brands like Nautica and Elle and Badgley Mischka, Von Dutch, Smiley, Miami Carry-On, the list goes on, into a multi-million-dollar operation across marketplaces and B2B dropship partners. He specializes in predictive inventory, marketplace operations, and conversion-focused content. He's currently helping launch Ripple Reviews, which is something we'll chat about later in the podcast, which is a next-generation review and reputation platform. Welcome to the show, Ariel, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
Real pleasure. Today, we're going to be talking about a couple of things. We're going to be talking about running e-commerce as an operating system and not just as a sales channel. And we're going to talk about aligning product quality and inventory and digital storytelling. But before we get into that, I really want to hear a little bit about your background, Ariel, and your journey there to Naftali and how you got into e-commerce a little bit. Pleasure to have you here.
Same. Pleasure's all mine, as I said earlier. Story goes way back to when I was 13 years old still, downloading bootstrapped Photoshop programs and bootstrapped training videos on how to use Photoshop and Premiere and whatnot. Kind of got me into this whole creative world, which slowly turned into a branding world because there's so much you can do with creative graphic design financially. So I learned how to do logos and banners and web design, anything that kind of has to do with design I liked and kind of leaned towards throughout the very beginning of my career. At some point, I want to say in the early 2010s, I kind of realized that graphic design and design in general were not going to be my breakthrough, just because I wasn't always happy with the choices of my clients, as well as realizing that Fiverr is the future of, freelance graphic design work and all. It was just, I didn't see like a huge potential, and I just pivoted it away from it a little bit and got into e-commerce, which I realized there's a lot more potential for growth and for me to actually use the skills that I obtained over the year, training in all methods possible pretty much. And so then I got my first job in e-com. That was a cosmetics company called Deep Sea Cosmetics and Adore Cosmetics. That's where I did more or less the same as regular graphic design. I did banners, I did some packaging, I did some web design. And then I also did their Amazon and their eBay listings and processed some orders. Kind of that got my feet wet in the e-commerce world outside of just, working with marketers and providing them with content that I designed. After that, I did move to Israel. I was a waiter at a fish restaurant. That was a complete pivot. I just needed some quick cash. Just because I moved to a whole new country. It was a whole new beginning for me. That's where I met my wife, actually. We were trying it out for 2 years. Then we moved to Florida. And that's where I started working for a company called UHS. I was tasked with taking their e-com department and monetizing it because they were doing pretty good wholesale wise. And their e-com was kind of struggling. And when I started working there, I understood why. There was no efforts as far as product descriptions go.
Yeah.
There were no efforts as far as photography goes. There's just like no attention to details whatsoever. The banners looked like they were from the 90s on their website. So again, I kind of had to dig back in to my old, toolbox, Photoshop, Premiere a little bit, do some videos, some graphic design work. Got to work, and that was a pretty quick turnaround, honestly, because they didn't start from scratch. They had a pretty good foundation. It's just that they didn't execute the little details the right way to where customers actually convert across, both marketplaces and their own website as well. It just looked very dated, and people get deterred from websites that looked kind of old and uninviting. So I worked on that. That was like my main concern in the first 6, 7 months or so. And then they kind of promoted me to GM of the location, and they had me a team of 6 for the ecom alone. So that was pretty easy to scale quickly, and grow them from where they were to about 6x what they were making before that. And it's just by making these changes, not doing any extra marketing, not doing anything other than just like visuals and copy work that aligned with their marketing efforts, because they did have existing marketing efforts that kind of just like completely reshaped their sales online. And then through a client, I was introduced to my current employer, Naftali Inc., because he was very like impressed with my work there and the transformation that I did for the business there. And the people from Naftali heard about it, and they wanted to hire me so that I can start their e-commerce department from scratch, because they had none. They had like a basic, you know, I want to say brand website with no products on it. It was just like who they were, contact for sales or whatever. And then they worked based off Excel sheets with some, like very low grade photo, phone camera photos. And that's pretty much all they had. And that's what I
Some
had to work
low-hanging
with.
fruit there. Some
Oh,
low-hanging
yeah.
fruit at the beginning of this journey, right? And it's interesting that you came in through from the graphics side, and then you kind of stepped into e-commerce, right? Because
Yeah.
like some people are kind of quite creative, and then when you kind of move over from there to the digital side, they're like sometimes they're I don't see many people like having sort of left and right brains working together, right? Like to make that work. So that's kind of interesting. So you came from a brand aesthetic place, but then you moved into digital, and I could see, from the conversations that we've had already, is that like you're very focused on performance too,
Oh, yeah.
and that's a that's a big shift because usually you figure those two don't mix together, right?
No, not at all.
Mhm.
Usually it's like they just communicate as to what they need from each other. And that's where the relationship ends. You don't really want to know what's going on the other side. But I kind of forced that shift on myself just because as I explained earlier, like I realized for me at least, there was no bright future in the graphic design aesthetic. I knew there were good stuff to do in video, which is what you do, I know, and I
Sure.
love your work so far. Like from
Thank you.
the portfolio I saw, phenomenal work. It looks very fun,
Thank you.
to do what you do. That's something I actually learned when I was in high school, like just doing video editing. It was just so fun. It was my favorite subject. So yeah, that's what I like.
But you also have that idea, like you're in between performance, right, and branding,
Right.
and it's for me, it's fascinating, and it's nice to have you on because it's exactly my background, right? Like I'm very much about creative. I came out of marketing and branding and positioning, and moved into that performance world. Thus, creative that performs, right? That's a
Yeah.
concept behind this show itself, and the whole idea is like you really both of those really have to work together. But what you said earlier is so interesting. The idea that those two don't always meet, right?
Oh,
And
oh,
or sometimes
100%.
they're opposing, right? That sometimes they're opposing that brand side and the performance side.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's it incredibly, it's exciting because you can kind of measure result and you can kind of be really tapped into the brand and positioning of a product as well. So at Naftali, it is luggage, right? It's travel
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
multi-brand, right?
It's
Tell me a little bit about
multi-brand.
that.
Yeah, so the journey at Naftali when I started there, back to where I started, it was just like taking basic photos, getting like a basic DSLR camera, creating copy from scratch. That was pre-ChatGPT days where you could just like work at scale, where you like just feed the brand guidelines, you feed example copy, you feed the data, and you just tell it, hey, this profile is for, Von Dutch, this profile is for Nautica, this profile is for L. Here's the data that I collect from factories. Here's a bunch of example data of stuff that work online right now. And it's a lot easier nowadays to just scale content quickly, and it's very high quality too. It's like it checks all the marks. It's like SEO friendly, Amazon friendly, LLM friendly. Like you get all of that super quick. So back in the day, you just had to do that from scratch. Try to get like inspired from a bunch of well performing listings that are competing in the specific category of what you're trying to list at the moment. That took about a year, I want to say, for a few hundred SKUs just to get the photos right, the content right,
Oh,
and then
no.
getting approved on a bunch of marketplaces that weren't just Amazon or eBay or our own WordPress website, which is what we used back in the day before we migrated into Shopify, which is a lot easier. And that was kind of the beginning of my journey there because we didn't have any brands when I started. We just had Miami Carry On, which is our home brand, and we had this brand called 19V69 Italia, which had a huge lawsuit with Versace because apparently they used Versace in their brand name. It was a whole thing. We ended up dropping that brand, getting the first proper brand. I want to say the end of 2018, like just when I finished my first year, it was Badgley Mishka. We still work with them till this very day. We love that brand, love working with them. And then we slowly like just added more and more brands. We had Maui and Sons at some point. We had uh Alan Schwartz at some point, but those were like smaller like projects that didn't really fruit too much until we got
How do
to
you
then
control that? How do you control the brand aesthetic from each brand? Because you're working with multiple
right.
brands. I do see a lot of companies that usually are or that are multi-brand that have sometimes trouble managing the different look, feels, and positioning of each brand. How do you go
Correct.
about
Yeah.
managing that?
I work tightly with each brand's representative. Some brands are more cooperative and involved than others. Like L is very involved. I love working with them. Von Dutch is very involved. Very good people to work with. Badgley Mishka is more open minded. You kind of just the product designer provides them with sketches. They approve some, they deny some, they give you notes how to improve. They provide you once a year, every 2 years, their brand guidelines so that like where to target your designs, where to target your audience and whatnot. The audiences are about they're pretty permanent per brand. Like for Badgley Mishka is going to be like mature women because it's high end fashion. It's red carpet. So it's like women in their 40s, 50s. That's like the main
More
target
premium,
audience.
like
Yeah.
a premium brand, but
Yes.
they would supply like the imagery for you.
No.
And okay, and they would kinda direct, so how do you manage that, the control of it, especially as with each brand?
So yeah, what I would try to do, which is kind of hard, especially when I do photo sessions sometimes in China, what I do is I hire like a super top tier studio in China, which would cost me a few tens of thousands of dollars per photo shoot. Here in the States, I do it for a few thousands in China, and I get European looking or Western looking models to perform in those photo shoots. And if I do two different brands, for example, I will provide the brief as well as the brand's guidelines for both brands. Use the same models, but like use them in separate
Right,
locations at most times. You have them wear different clothes for the different products that they're promoting at the time, and that way, within let's say a 10-hour day, I can fit a proper 5 hour per brand photo shoot, and all of that can fit in a budget of just a few $1,000s. And you can
that's
get
great,
video footage off of it,
right.
lifestyle photos, studio photos. Those I usually try to do on a separate day, just because it's white backdrop, white studio. There's no need for locations. There's no need for models. So I try to book it in 2 different days. Do the studio, then do the studio, and then do the lifestyle and model photo shoots, which are more active and they require more energy.
Aspirational, kind of aspirational type of videos and photography, and you use that content, I guess, across
Oh yeah.
marketplaces and B2B and at retail. Do you
Yes.
guys sell retail as well? Tell me a little bit about that.
So retail is not really my domain. I only support it with the content that I create because according to my CEO, the content that I create is usually one of the biggest movers for retail buyers as well. Like they see the content, the fact that it's live on premium channels like Nordstrom and Macy's and stuff like that kind of makes the product more attractive to the buyers of the retail chains. Yeah, so I'm not a salesperson. Like I'm not strong with like buyer salesperson relationships, but I want to say that the content that we provide makes the sale a lot of the times. Like, yeah,
You
there's
support the brands. I mean, it's funny, years ago, it used to be that, a manufacturer could come in, have a brand, sell it to a retailer, it gets to the shelf, their job is done. Today, what we see in the market is like every brand has to support themselves digitally,
oh yeah,
for outreach.
oh
Otherwise,
yeah,
there's no connection. So the responsibility of a brand is very different than it used to be
hmm
10 or 15 years ago, right? It used to be just, hey, if it was on the shelf at Walmart or Macy's or Target, that was it. Your job was done, right?
yep.
You're on the shelf.
Now they
And
want you to
today,
start online. They
right
want you to
now, they
start
want you to
only
start
online.
online.
Thing is, though,
Exactly.
if you start online, from what I learned, I go to a bunch of e-commerce shows. One of my favorite ones is Triple E in Miami, and they usually bring the Shark Tank as the main speaker. So I think it was Mr. Wonderful that said it. He was like, back in the day, you'd get into stores would squeeze you for margins and whatever just to get in there. They would charge you like $40,000 for a shelf spot, stuff like that. It was insane back in the day. Nowadays, what Kevin is saying is that you build your brand strong enough online and you won't have to change anything about your cost because the retailers will beg you to carry you in their stores so that their customers have a product to work with. So they will pay whatever you tell them they have to pay as long as you kind of meet their minimum margins. You're still golden. Like there's no need for you to um, like kind of fight for your margins and negotiate too much. It's more just, oh, you want my product now? You like what you see? Sure. Here's the pricing. Here's the product. Here's our terms. Here's how long it takes the product to get to you. You
There's
can
market
just,
proof, right?
oh yeah,
There's market proof,
yeah,
and speaking about that, in what I've seen, statistics like 50% of Amazon being the biggest marketplace, right, is actually China today, Chinese products.
oh yeah. I know.
50% of sellers today. So we are seeing even them getting more sophisticated in presenting products and branding and positioning, and we're seeing even that elevate. How does that affect you in at Naftali and in your business, if at all? And
Oh, it
in
has
regards to like
heavily.
speaking about this whole idea about pricing and positioning and brands.
It affected us heavily. I gotta say, so this is something that affects even more on Walmart, just so you're aware, than on Amazon. But on Amazon, you stand a fighting chance because customers that buy on Amazon still care about the brand that they buy. And that's kind of where we have an edge because we have these licensing agreements, so we can have this brand power that supports us. Because if we were working based off of pricing alone, we would stand zero chances. Because the thing is, um, our landed cost at a lot of the times is going to be almost identical to what these Chinese brands are selling the product for because they manipulate landed costs.
Mhm.
100% they manipulate those and they're not scared of it because all they care about is the product that sells. Because if their seller gets suspended, The product is still selling. They just open another seller account from China,
Mm,
which they have barely any consequences for. They start
yeah.
another seller, they take over those listings, they put some sponsored campaigns, and they're back into like number one selling on Amazon. Very quick, super easy for them. And I want to say they do the same thing on Walmart and on Amazon. So we price our products almost double what most of these Chinese brands sell their products for. Almost double, not necessarily double, anywhere between 30 and 50% higher. The quality, I'm sure, is better, especially since we moved our production away from China for luggage. We moved it to Indonesia, and we made sure that the layers that are used for the shell of the suitcase, that's a very technical term, but
Right.
we use sufficient layers. We use very high quality materials. So we're trying to be competitive there, pairing that with nice designs and proper brand name, as well as a strong sponsored campaigns
So
going
your
on.
your defense then, your defense is number one, staying out of the price game,
Yes.
being into a particular brand, and separating yourself completely by being very distant
Yes.
um, from these Chinese competitors, right? And
Yeah.
really leaning into more of premium and brand and positioning of your own. That is that's what you recommend to sellers out there
Build
who
a
might be
moat.
watching this, who are facing those Chinese competitors every day, because
Oh,
I hear
yeah.
about it a lot.
So there's this guy, his name is Daniel something. I forget his last name. But what he's saying is nowadays, in order to succeed on Amazon, the one thing you want above all is to make it as hard as possible to make your product like your product. So build a moat, fill it up with as many waters and alligators as possible, use regulation, made in USA if possible. For luggage, it's a non question, simply impossible. We tried. It's very few brands can do that. Um, but just like build as many moats as possible, place as many obstacles around you as possible. So for us, it's brands, quality, feature wise, we're pretty much on par with the market. We had a little feature here, a little feature there, like a removable toiletry bag, which is kind of cool. It's like a water resistant toiletry bag that you can put on your sink when you go to your hotel or whatever. You have your toothbrush and cosmetics or whatever in it. When you're done, you just snap it back into your suitcase and you're good to go. But it's not something to write home about. There's a bunch of cool features out there in suitcases. So features are nice, but they're not a strong enough moat because they're not too hard to implement. Absolutely are a great moat because you have exclusivity. No one can sell that brand in your category because you have a licensing agreement. So that was the mode for us. Pairing that with sponsored campaigns, that I want to say is what kind of gave us the ability to survive on Amazon when competing with these Chinese brands because they literally you cannot fight them on price. There's no way you can.
Right, right. They're the manufacturer. It's obviously very, very difficult. You really got to have your brand, a strong brand, a strong position, a strong product. I mean, I think brand is actually more important today than ever. It's kind of funny. People think that like brands are going away. No, I think it's the opposite. That is
100%.
only defense that you have. Either you create your own brand, position it right, or
Very hard.
you well, hard to do, right? It's a longer game. It's a lot more patience, right? A lot more strategy, or obviously you license brands and you put them out. So one point of defense, of course, is kind of licensing brands.
Mhm.
Of course, innovation, as you said, is another way. Let's talk a little bit about I know that you say you run e-commerce as an operating system. I want to get into that a little bit
Of course.
and understand that in contrast to a sales channel, which you mentioned.
Oh, yeah. So sales channels are just your face. They're just a face. And there's like, if someone goes to Nordstrom, they type in Von Dutch, they type in Badgley Mishka, luggage, weekender, travel accessory, whatever, they'll find my product. That's the front end. The back end is making sure that you have the stock available to support you. And when you work across 20, 30 channels, you got to make sure that they all have accurate numbers showing. And you can't be working with Excel sheets, which is a requirement by most of these marketplaces and B2B dropshippers, like Macy's, for example. Like they all need inventory to be accurate all the time. because you can't be overselling. It's
Right.
it's going to
Right.
get you out of
No.
business very fast with them. They will just kick you out.
Yeah. Not to
So,
mention Amazon, where you'll lose the positioning as soon as you run out of inventory. You'll
well,
lose the
yeah,
buy box
well,
in
yeah, you
case.
lose the buy box super
Right.
quick. So, but that's the
No.
thing with us, we don't compete for the buy box. We're exclusive. Um, yeah. But what I want to say as far as an operating system goes, so you have this. We use this a software. It's called Seller Cloud. That is what we use in order to sync inventory. Some channels get updates every 15 minutes. Some channels get updates every hour. It depends on the limitations that they have. Um, and then you also got to make sure that when you work on a hybrid model, you're not offering your stock, all of your stock, to retailers. Because if you do that, you're going to be without stock because lead time is long, especially in our category. Lead time can be anywhere between 90 and 180 days from the moment you place an order to the moment you get the product back in. So that's kind of what made me develop our predictive inventory system that allows us to kind of track the average monthly sales per SKU, the best month sales per SKU, and then the average of the best month sales and the average monthly sales to ensure that we're good for the amount of time it takes to produce and import products into stock. So if there's a 6 month sale, like if there's a 6 month lead time for a specific product, I know that what I have available
Mhm.
divided by 6 months is sorry,
Is
it's hard
X.
to
It's
it's
okay.
hard to
Kind of like
explain this. Give me a second. So you need 6 months. You need to multiply 6 months times the average of the average between your best month sales and your average monthly sales per SKU. Then you know how many you need to have for 6 months of healthy inventory. If you have anything less than that, you need to know that you already need to place an order, even though you still have stock. But that stock's going to run out by the time you get new stock. So you better rush and get that stock. Now, if you have
does your
over,
does your company defend that inventory for you, or do they sometimes grab it?
they sometimes grab it. It
Yeah.
pisses me off.
Uh,
No, but
all right, there's the honesty. Yeah,
I pick my
you're
battles
not
though.
alone. You're not
No, no, no.
alone. So
Oh, I know.
you're not alone in defending that inventory because sometimes they need it. So you have to even have a buffer. I
I
imagine
try to
even in
have a
that too.
buffer. 100% I try to have a buffer. In most cases, we do honor my inventory system. Sometimes they'll be like, listen, Beals said they need it, and we already placed an order. It's on the way. Blah blah blah. And I'm like, it's not gonna be here on time, right? Like you're aware. So it's annoying that sometimes I have to defend my inventory. It's not an all the time situation though. Most of the times it's good. It's fine. It's honored. Now anything
Right.
that I have excess, and on top of that, that's what goes onto ATSs onto ATS sheets that go to buyers at retailers. So it like my inventory predicting algorithm does take these salespeople into account on
Okay.
every SKU level so that you can just export, the inventory from there and you know exactly what you can offer from any given SKU to
And that's in Seller
retailers.
Cloud. You do your
No, I had to
or you have
custom
your own
develop.
system for
Yeah.
managing inventory
Yeah, for
and
managing inventory,
predicting.
because Seller Cloud's predictive inventory system isn't as robust as I need it to be because of our lead time, then I had to develop one of my own. It's kind of based on the last year's sales for the amount of SKUs that I'm interested in. And then there's this prompt that was developed over a course of a few weeks, which was then developed into a platform, which with a custom AI developing team that I used. And now this platform, it simplifies the amount of steps that are needed to take. Uh, I want to say I do that every week or so. I just
That's so
export.
can a manager inventory that way. I know there's another product out there called GoFlow, similar to maybe a competitor to Seller Cloud that does a lot of that. I've heard from clients that's kind of amazing in sort of managing inventory. So that's a big part of the business, right? Managing inventory, making sure you're not out of stock, and then in the driving sales side, let's talk a little bit about the creative side of things. And We talked about photo shoots before and video. Let's talk a little bit about like how do you measure that? How do you look at sponsored ads? How does that work across Amazon? You don't do much on your own e-commerce, is that correct? Uh,
Yeah, on my own e-commerce, I'll tell you what, it's just that the majority of customers, as far as I can tell, they just like buying where they're comfortable buying. You got to
right,
meet your customers where they're at, not try to chase them down and make them buy from your website. At the end of the day, as long as you're protecting your margins, it doesn't matter where you sell, just sell. That's
right,
as far as numbers go. However, in order to make that sale, if you're running a specific brand, you got to make sure you're on brand. In order to be on brand, you got to have the proper content. Nowadays, I'm scheduling a photo shoot for Von Dutch, and for Von Dutch, it was a whole new game for me because I never did one for them, and they're very edgy. They're very like like minimal with clothing. I want to say they're very and imagine we just sell travel goods. So now I'm
right.
scheduling a photo shoot. I already picked a model with the brand and I picked locations with the brand. I kind of selected the top 10 that kind of looked like they will go best with the brand aesthetic. And then I picked the top 5 locations out of the 20 that were provided to me. And I worked with the brand. I was like, all right, here's the options. Let's pick 2 or 3 locations. Let's pick one model. Maybe we'll do two. I don't know. It seems like they have more than one model on their photo shoots a lot. So I might have
So it
to
sounds like they give you some liberty there to pick the models and work in conjunction with them to get the photos done. And how do you go about measuring performance once you're using that content? I mean, some of it is static content, some is aspirational content.
right.
And let's kind of just touch either whether it be on Amazon or whether it be on Walmart. Of course, Amazon is the biggest platform. I know we do a lot on kind of sponsored ads and sponsored brand and a lot of measurement. We're always looking how do we know that a video is performing? How do we know that piece of content is performing? We're not a PPC agency, so we don't manage Amazon pay per click. We're like 100% dedicated to the creative. So I'm always,
Right.
what is your challenge when it comes to creating performance or measuring the return, on that ad spend? Or can you?
I'll be 100% honest with you. I have no idea what
Mm,
works. I use content. I get a compliment from the brand.
yeah.
So that's a green light for me to use it anywhere I want. I mean, I have the consent from the models as well as the photographer to use these wherever I want for as long as I need. So I just get the content, you know, use different aspect ratios for different platforms. Some of them are mobile, some of them are wide, just like full horizontal videos. Um, I'll just place them there, on an A+ page. I'll place them on product pages. That's pretty much all I'll do, though. I don't know how to measure it because I don't even run our campaigns. The
Right.
campaigns we hire an agency to do that for us.
Right.
I always have. We never really managed to do too great in house, and I never really liked marketing. It's
They
a
may
very
come to you,
boring
right? They may
subject.
come to you and ask for our video. They'll come to you and ask for that content.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll give them all the content. Usually, I just have like a Dropbox that's organized by brand, by product, and I just give them a free hand. With L, I gotta say, the brand L, because they have their magazine, they have quarterly photo shoots and video shoots that they do in Paris. So I
Right.
don't really have to do any of that myself. I just send them product that I think is going to sell well in a certain season, and they provide me with the content themselves. Like I'll send it to Paris. They have their own models. They have their own like photographers, videographers, and they have like very nice campaigns performed for us. But for any other brand, they don't do that too often. Like they'll just take products that we provide and create content for us. We have to kind of do it ourselves and pay for it ourselves.
And do they run like sponsored brand video and sponsored uh, display? L does that. It's interesting that we've heard that display actually brand videos start to fatigue in like 4 weeks, believe it or
Really?
not. Yeah, and performance drops off um, considerably. And of course, it's not practical to, rebuild videos every month. The idea is to build, variable content. And
Yeah.
then the idea is to actually kind of study which ones are working and then do more A/B testing. But I think Amazon just launched this year, at end of 25, sponsored product videos, which is
Right.
the next level, right? More on features and detail. But we're also seeing more keyword um, strategy behind video. So it's really becoming more like sort of what we do for Meta or Instagram, right? Where you're really tied more in, and you came out of e-commerce, so you can understand that side of it, right? Like
Oh yeah.
everything has to be optimized. Um,
100% needs to be
so which
optimized.
is
You should see my file names. They're so long.
that's good. That's a good sign.
Yeah.
That's a good sign.
Yeah. The file
It's
names are just a
challenging.
description of what's in it. And I just throw sentences at images. So it used to be just a skew with the number.
Right.
I mean,
And
that's what we,
where do you manage everything? Do you have like a product management system, or do you just have it in Dropboxes? Just as a curiosity for those listening.
so we have an in-house server, which is organized by brand. That's where I store everything and organize it by, of course, by brand, then by category. I mean, it's by brand, then by the category of what it is, because it could be like production, it could be shows, it could be brand guidelines, and then photos and media. So the photos and media is going to be organized by product type, and then the product type is going to have sub product collections, and then it's going to have the different, like resolutions, if it's squared, if it's
So you name
horizontal,
everything and you
portrait.
have it in your own systems
Yeah,
that
but
you
not
you
only,
put
because a lot of
together.
these retailers, which we do drop shipping for, they require a CDN link to be incorporated to the sheets that we upload to those platforms to be used by them. Like they don't want me to upload the photo to their CDN. They want me to upload it to my CDN. I host it. They use it. So that way
And
it doesn't touch there. Yeah.
they
They,
pull it from there.
they pull it from there. Yeah.
Awesome. Tell me a little bit about this new thing that you're working on. I know that we talked about Ripple a little bit, which is a reputation platform. I'm sure people want to hear a little bit about that as well.
But yeah. Reputation. I mean, Ripple Reviews is my fun project for getting as many reviews as possible, pretty much. It's let me give it a name, because what I like to call it is an AI engine for brand reputation growth, intelligence, and control. It allows you to drive review volume with intelligent routing through QR code scans, either at locations, on product warranty registrations, product benefits. Um,
So let's walk through it. Let's walk
sure.
through the actual use there. So I buy a product in a store. I've got a QR code on the back, and boom, there's a incentive for me to put a review in,
No.
maybe register. I mean, I
Yeah.
can register my product and lead to a
Correct.
review, or how does that
Yeah.
work?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. So, what it does is pretty much just say my wife, for example, she has a book, right? On her book, I put this thing called get, like a little QR code on the back of the book that says get your free coloring pages. And all it is me providing book readers, kids' book readers, a PDF with 4 coloring pages. So they'll scan the QR code, a form opens, they'll fill up their details. There's a little pre review, kind of like a prepping review star thingy on the bottom of the form. If they hit 3 stars or below, a consent form pops up, which asks them if it's okay for the brand to contact them about their negative feedback. They select where they bought the product, if it's Amazon, the brand website, Barnes and Noble, a store, a festival, wherever it is that they bought it at. And once they hit submit, they're redirected to the respected platform to leave a review without prompting, without anything. It just whoop, you hit submit, product review page is right in front of you. So what it does, it pretty much just removes all friction from the leaving a review for a product process. Because today, how reviews are being asked for are pretty straightforward. It's either via text messaging, which is expensive and doesn't work most of the time. People are just like delete, they swipe it away. or it's an email request, which never even gets opened because you get 1,000 of those when you buy everything on Amazon, Walmart, Nordstrom, Macy's. Everyone asks for a review. They beg you for one. You're not going to click it. It's annoying. It's like it's noise. You want to push it away. But if you buy a nice product, like a high-end product, you get a nice product. It says protect your investment, register your warranty. You're going to go and register your warranty. You want to protect your investment. So if you register your warranty, you protect your investment. As soon as you finish, again, you have those 3 stars. Where'd you buy it? If you say Amazon, it'll take you to Amazon. If you say a retailer's website,
It
it'll
takes you
take you
there.
to whatever custom link you want to lead to. You can even lead a customer to BBB
Uh,
to leave a review
that
for the
depends wherever
company.
they want to leave. So it takes you instantly to the right platform for the right, not
Correct.
just a Google review. It takes you to the Amazon review,
Correct.
and
Correct.
also mitigates for people that are dissatisfied with something that you can kind of
It doesn't mitigate them though. That's going to be called review gating. So what it does is just it allows the brand full consent to contact the customer via phone or email, and then it directs you to leave a review anyways. Now, if the customer decides to leave a review or wait for the brand to contact them is completely up to them. But if Ripple Reviews gated that and stopped the communication there and
it
didn't,
wouldn't be verified. Yeah. So
it would be
it
verified.
right.
It would still be verified, but it would be illegal. That's called review
Uh,
gating. So you can't do that.
right.
You gotta allow customers proceed to wherever it is. If you go to a Chili's and you scan the QR code to get your free chips and salsa, right? And you fill up the form, you want to get your free chips and salsa, you hit 3 stars, and then you hit next. It can take you to either Google or Yelp, whatever Chili's decides.
Right.
If a Chili's ever decides to work with us, which would be awesome, but
Right.
say they do that, um, then Chili's has the funnel in their hand. They have a subscriber, which is automated. If they hit subscribe, yeah, there's a check mark for it, just like on every other basic form. And they have consent to contact the customer if they're not satisfied about anything. But at the end of the day, the majority of customers that go to a certain place on a regular basis or not, they're gonna be happy with the purchase, especially if they get something out of it that's not conditional to them leaving a review.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually the peak time also when they just received the product is actually the height of it, right? Like
Yes,
they're
they're
actually feeling
excited.
most positive at that point. The earlier you can get the review. And who you think is your first customers for this? Who you think that you're most want to
I
reach
don't know.
out of the gate, or you're waiting for that to come back and then decide, okay, these people like, is it restaurant? Is it more product? Is it
So that's why I
expensive?
split it. So my homepage, like the landing page for Ripple Reviews, is now split into for consumer goods, for hospitality, and for service providers. Because there's no specific target market that it's for. It's very widespread. The way I saw best to go about it was just to split it on the website into 3 different pages that explain how it will benefit you as a business if you're one of those 3 categories. If you're a barber, you want the customers to leave a 5-star review, you give them a 20% discount on a little business card with a QR code. They scan it, they fill it, they get their QR code sent to their email as soon as they hit submit, and they're redirected to Google or Yelp to leave a review.
That's
Um,
exciting. So this is
yeah.
released. Ripple Reviews is already up and running.
It's up and
And
running. It's already released. I want to have like an official launch on January 2nd just to make it like more official.
official.
But it's live, like it's tested.
That's
I
exciting.
stress tested it with a test um, franchise with 1,200 locations to kind of see how it works. And what it does now, it it doesn't just provide you with the option to collect reviews at mass. It allows you to kind of learn from your existing reviews because what I have is a bunch of API integrations with Google, Yelp, Meta. I'm working on the TikTok integration right now, and what it allows brands to do, it allows them to download the last 60 days of reviews from all those platforms simultaneously, and then they have on the dashboard, they have a chat where they can chat with all their content to kind of see what are their weak spots, what are their strong spots. which shifts are not doing that great, stuff like
Oh,
that.
that's great. Well,
And
so that's a whole other benefit that seems to me that that would probably be a great direction to go down, right? Because now
oh
they're
yeah,
getting all this feedback right out of the gate to keep an eye. So for franchise companies, right, and restaurants and big chains or anybody who has any kind of franchise out there, where they're going to get this feedback
right.
of the consumer, that's huge. That's very exciting. I wish
Yeah, it
you
is. I'm
luck,
very excited about it.
success with that, and they can find that at Ripple.
Ripple.reviews.io or just ripple.reviews.
Ripple.reviews or ripple.reviews.io.
Correct.
Either
Yes.
people can find it. Awesome. Uh, anything else coming up outside that, or that fills all your that fills your day?
I tell you what, I'm very curious about the content, the way you said it, because like now I have all these projects going on in my life. I have like all these brands at Naftali Inc, which I'm very excited about. As I said, especially about Von Dutch, that brand. I'm getting a lot of excitement from it. So I'm excited to see how that thing's gonna perform in 2025, and I want to try doing like a bunch of content and not releasing it all at once, like just trickling it because it's expensive running these photo shoots, even if it is in China. And
Yeah,
if I
yeah.
can use the content, but not just take all the content and kind of edit it into one video, but spread it, use like one location, see how that performs, and use another location, see how that performs, and kind of just like give it a
Sure,
try.
I'm happy to share a lot of the strategy that goes behind that and how we look at video. I mean, funny for my background coming out of e-commerce, for 20 years, and then my partner, who was a director, right, who's done all these big commercials for major brands, globally.
Okay.
It was always that mix, like understanding, okay, like why is this working? Okay, we know it's beautiful. Beautiful is just not enough today. Um, and they really have to work together, and you have to be able to measure it. I think that's the real key thing in video. And with the tools that are available today, you can do a lot of measurement. You can do more A/B testing, a little more limited in some places on Amazon, but you can run simultaneous videos. It's just changing every day, and AI is helping us not by just prompting videos together, but we use AI deeply in research, and sometimes it's saving that photo shoot that I need, and then we have our creative team basically take those pieces together, and we can come out with a beautiful piece of content that's very focused on feature sets and why somebody's buying something and how it opens. I mean, case in point, if somebody's looking for a particular bag that fits under the seat in the plane, right? And luggage, we'll talk about luggage. And that's their search query. I need to have a variant video around that, and I know that's going to perform. So
Right.
there's some really, we'll have several variants all around those keyword search terms. And then you've got the look and feel and branding, but then you're very, very intentional about how you build these out. Um, it's it's quite interesting and it's exciting, and as AI comes into it, and so we can use those tools really to accelerate what we're doing and get even better performance.
Oh, that's
But
beautiful.
it's
I
great
have a
having you on the
question.
show today. Yes,
I-
yes. Yeah.
Um, so I spoke with a marketing specialist in one of these EEE events recently, and what she said is when you create video content for a product, you don't want to sell the product. You want to sell the lifestyle of the person using that product. You want
Mm.
to have that experience, and the way for you to have that experience is by having the product that's being promoted. Is that something that you see as accurate?
Sometimes if it's aspirational, um, now if you think about fashion, it's all in the look and feel, right?
Mhm.
But then there's functionality is the other side of it, and there's really a balance between those 2 things, so
Right,
that somebody's not gonna buy that bag if it doesn't fit under the seat, and if it's not practical and doesn't have the organizational qualities that they need, so they
right.
really want both. So you really need to be able to blend the aspirational quality with the functionality of the product today. I wouldn't get that I would say if it's like a fur coat or something, right? Like we can't,
Yeah, you
we're not
can't
going
show
so much into the quality of it, right? It is something expensive and they get that. It's the
right,
whole look and feel. So
right,
really, I think in hard goods and products, it's very different than fashion. And we don't do a lot of fashion, to be honest with you. We're much more focused on, you know, big brands, but we're looking at what's the reason, what's the pain, what's the solution, why are they buying this? Of course, part of that can be aspirational. That could be part of my lifestyle. Why am I picking Van Dutch? Because I am edgy, but it still has to, fit the functionality of what I need. And
right.
thank you so much for having you on.
Thank you
This
for
was a
having
great
me.
conversation. I learned a lot, and I think for me and for those that are watching, I think it's interesting too because lots of times I have a single brand that I'll be speaking to to that's just focused on that one thing. But not often do I have people that are working multi-brand, and it's a very different game. It's a very different way of managing the business than somebody who has this one key brand. That's what they sell and that's what they do. Suddenly you have multi-brands, you're working with licensors, right? You're working with different visuals, different channels. And as you said earlier, I think one of the learnings is it really doesn't matter where they buy the product. It's a matter of making it most convenient and then bringing that brand to the forefront so people can find it.
Yes,
So thank you
100%.
so much for coming on the show today. It was an absolute pleasure, Ariel. Thank you so much.
It was my pleasure as well. Thank you so much for having me, Michael.